Let's get into something that's stirring up buzz in both politics and pop culture. You probably know John Fetterman. He's the Democratic senator from Pennsylvania, known for speaking out on big issues like justice, equality, and standing up for the underdog. But this time, it's not about policy. It's about a lawsuit that's pulling daytime television into the mix. Fetterman is now suing The View's Sunny Hostin, along with the producers of the show. This isn't a petty argument or some clickbait headline. It's a real legal fight that's catching national attention. So what happened? And why is it such a big deal? Let's walk through it.
About the J6 people too, though, right? That's what they're going to say on the other side. That is weaponized also.
I'm not referring to that. I'm talking about the New York trial. And now the Democrats on our side there were some that were gleeful, calling it like, now he's a convicted felon and those things. And now for our party, we were talking about criminal justice, and we are now talking about second chances. And now all of a sudden now you're like, well, he's a convicted felon and all these things. And now clearly, again, both of those trials, the Hunter Biden one and the trial in New York for Trump, that was politically motivated. And those kinds of charges would have never been brought unless one side could realize that they could weapon.
To start with, Fetterman's not new to the spotlight. Over the years, he's built a reputation for being direct, unfiltered, and not afraid to take on powerful people or institutions. Whether he's fighting for overlooked communities or calling out unfair systems, he's made it clear he doesn't back down. That includes going toe-to-toe with the media when he thinks a line has been crossed. So when he appeared on The View, most people expected the usual, some political talk, strong opinions, and maybe a few laughs. It's a show known for bold takes, and Sunny Hostin is known for speaking her mind. But something unexpected happened. According to reports, a comment made by Hostin during the segment crossed a line for Fetterman. Now, we don't have all the details yet. The case is still unfolding. But whatever was said hit hard enough that Fetterman filed a lawsuit claiming defamation. In plain terms, he says what was said damaged his name and did real harm beyond just a disagreement or a heated exchange on TV.
They had a placebo group and they had a vaccine group because they wanted for military readiness to see if the flu shot was prophylactic against coronavirus. What they found is actually the people who got the flu shot were 36% more likely to get coronavirus. And that's not a lone study. We found 6 other major studies that say the same thing. If you get the flu shot, you're more likely to get coronavirus. Look, all you have to do, Alan, and this is what Cochrane said, is look what's happened to longevity in the elderly since we started mandating the flu shot to elderly people. Those are the people who their life expectancy has dramatically gone down as the flu shot proliferated. And if you see, the people who died during the COVID crisis.
This matters, not just for Fetterman, but for all of us, because the media plays a huge role in shaping how we see people and issues. When someone in the public eye, like a U.S. senator, feels they've been misrepresented or unfairly attacked on national television, it's not just about hurt feelings. It raises serious questions about how much power the media has and whether they're using it responsibly. So why should the average person care? Good question. Because we live in a time where news spreads fast, opinions go viral, and what someone says on TV can shape headlines, trends, and even public trust. Fetterman's lawsuit taps into a bigger issue. Where do we draw the line between free speech and defamation? And what happens when powerful platforms like The View, with millions of daily viewers, get it wrong? Fetterman isn't just standing up for himself. He's pushing for accountability. He's saying that just because you have a platform doesn't mean you can say anything without consequences. In his view, the show's producers should have taken more care in what they allowed to air. For him, this is about more than correcting the record. It's about sending a message to media outlets that words have weight, and with influence comes responsibility.
His son, after all, and people do have sympathy for that. But a lot of people are angry with him about it. What do you say?
Well, I think it's undeniable that the case against Hunter Biden was really politically motivated, but I also think it's true that the trial in New York for Trump that was political as well too. Now it's that, and in both cases, I think a pardon is appropriate, and I really think collectively, America's confidence in these kinds of institutions have been damaged by these kinds of cases, and we cannot allow these kinds of institutions to be weaponized against our political opponents. And it's very clear both trials were politically motivated and weaponized.
Now, let's turn to Sunny Hostin. She's known for being outspoken, and that's a big part of why people watch her on The View. But in this case, her comments may have gone too far. Was it just a strong opinion, or did it cross the legal line into defamation? That's something a court will have to decide. But the bigger issue here is this. Should public figures with massive audiences be able to say whatever they want without being held accountable? That's the heart of Fetterman's case. This isn't just about one segment or one celebrity moment. It's about the bigger picture, how the media influences what people believe, and what happens when that influence is used carelessly. In today's world, where anything said on air or online can spread within minutes, the stakes are high. Fetterman's raising real concerns about how easily misinformation can become accepted as fact, and what responsibility networks have to get things right.
In a new Netflix documentary series about New York Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers, he said he's heartbroken about friends and family cutting him off for his controversial political views and conspiracy theories. And a lot of Americans can relate to this, especially after this last election. So, do you think it happens everywhere?
What I recall about him is when he was asked about the COVID-19 pandemic, during the height of the pandemic, when people had lost loved ones, when people's family members were missing from their Thanksgiving table, like my table, he said, "I'm immunized." And as it turns out, he was not. He had done his own research. He has his Google MD like I do. And I think he said he was allergic to something in the vaccine, but he had COVID and he was in a huddle with his teammates. Yeah. And I think people felt like, wow, you don't care. You're not your brother's keeper.
This could really, this could really turn me against football.
Morality.
Let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. This lawsuit is about more than just one disagreement on a talk show. It's about a much larger issue. How we balance free speech with personal responsibility. On one hand, we value open conversation and the right to speak our minds. That's a basic part of living in a free society. But at the same time, people should be protected from false or damaging claims, especially when those words are said on national television. That's exactly the line this case brings into focus. Fetterman's lawsuit could end up setting a legal example, not just for public figures and the media, but for how all of us think about speech, slander, and accountability in a world where information spreads instantly. So here's the question. Did The View go too far? Or is Fetterman making this bigger than it needs to be? Is he standing up for what's right, or just trying to manage his image? These are the kinds of questions that make this case so interesting, because it touches on everything from media responsibility to legal limits on speech to the role politics plays in public conversations.
In a million years, I would not take the flu shot, and I'll tell you why, because this is what Cochrane and BMJ have found. People who take the flu shot are protected against that strain of flu. They're 4.4 times more likely to get a non-flu infection. And you might find, and a lot of people do, that they get the flu shot and then they get sick. They're usually not getting the flu. They're getting something that is indistinguishable from the flu, because the flu shot gives you something called pathogenic priming. It injures your immune system so that you're more likely to get a non-flu viral upper respiratory infection. In fact, the Pentagon published a story, and you can cite this, it's by Wolfe, W-O-L-F-E, in January of this year, in which they said that the flu shot not only primes you for flu, but it primes you for corona.
No matter where you land on this issue, one thing is clear. This lawsuit isn't just a personal fight between John Fetterman and The View. It's part of a larger discussion about how much influence media outlets really have, and what happens when that power isn't handled carefully. Legal analysts are already watching this case closely. Depending on how it plays out, it could change the way TV shows and news platforms talk about public figures in the future. And the rest of us will be watching too, wondering whether Fetterman's claims hold up in court or whether this fades into just another media moment that passes. But for now, we're seeing something bigger unfold: the overlap of politics, media, and law in real time. And the outcome could shape how we all talk, listen, and react in today's fast-moving information world. So what do you think? Is Fetterman right to speak up, or is this a stretch? Whether you're following for the politics, the media drama, or just because it's a compelling legal showdown, this is one story that's not going away anytime soon. We'll keep tracking it, so stay tuned as this one continues to unfold.